For quite some time now, ACC fans have been waiting for the next big thing, and now it's finally happening. Version 1.8 of Assetto Corsa Competizione brings us the new BMW M4 GT3, and that's it? Or so it seems, because this new update may not have the content fans were waiting for. But under the hood, oh baby, are there a lot of changes. Why this update might be the biggest leap in the franchise history and why you should definitely give it a try, I tell you in today's video. Hi, my name is Champion Joe, welcome to Overtake.gg, and today we'll have a closer look at everything that's new in version 1.8 of Assetto Corsa Competizione. For a few days now I already had access to the beta build and I have to say I really love it so far. And yes, the BMW is great as well, we'll talk about that in just a second, but what they did, all those small changes to the physics, to the graphics and to the tick rate are what make this update so special. But let's not beat around the bush and rather start with all the new content that made it into the update. Let's start with the obvious. The new BMW M4 GT3 finally makes its appearance in ACC after we already drove the heck out of it in iRacing for the last couple of months. In terms of looks, the M4 splits opinions. Of course, not everybody likes that aggressive front intake, but what we surely can all agree on is that it looks phenomenal in the game. The car model is superb, the sound is, as always in ACC, at the highest level, and the Fanatec wheel also makes its appearance, making the M4 as close to the real deal as possible. Driving-wise, the BMW adapts perfectly to the rest of the GT3 field. In my eyes, it offers a really stable drive. There's not a lot of oversteer, it can attack the curbs quite well, and it's just fun to drive. But to be honest, it's quite difficult to compare it to everything I know in ACC because the gameplay changed so drastically. That's why, yes, the BMW M4 GT3 is a great addition to the game and even gives us more variety, but the changes Kunos did that are not visible at first glance are the real star in my eyes. The real star in the eyes of Overtake are of course you guys, so if you haven't already, consider hitting that sub button, becoming part of the crew. But let's get back to ACC and what has changed in this revolutionary update. There are numerous changes which have been made to the game that benefit one another and make ACC an all-around better game. This starts with the update to the newest Unreal Engine version, resulting in NVIDIA Deep Learning, Super Sampling, DLSS, and AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, FSR, both being supported from now on. With the AI helping the GPU upsample lower rendered images, the FPS rate in ACC is significantly boosted in every circumstance. On a monitor, this already looks awesome with only slight visible artifacts that are neglectable. And this could be a potential game changer for VR users, a group who have had their fair share of issues with running the game smoothly in the past. Let me know in the comments down below if this fixed VR for you, I'm really eager to know. But if you don't want to use super sampling, the performance of the game has improved a lot as well. The reason for this is the completely overhauled physics engine frequency. Not only is the tick rate now higher at 400 Hz, it's also more stable, as the code can now select what needs a higher tick rate and what doesn't. This will lead to a great improvement in average and minimum FPS. I know that all sounds super theoretical and you just want to know how that affects the driving, but hear me out. With version 1.8, ACC calculates the physics 20% more often than before, which leads to some completely new tire and suspension behavior when driving over curbs and bumps. There are also improved springs and dampers interacting at higher rates, improved and more precise FFB refresh, and so on. So this is the true star of this update. It will change the feel for ACC forever. Sounds grand, and it is, and we'll have a spin showcasing how it feels in just a second. But there is yet more new stuff that further enhances the driving sensation. With version 1.8, ACC sports a completely new code for combined grip simulation and heat generation. This leads to cars having improved control right at or over the limit, makes trail braking easier and even improves the grip level with lower traction control settings. Kunos even told us that driving without traction control should be possible on optimal conditions, even though they still suggested to leave it on as it greatly reduces tire wear. But if you want to learn more about traction control and why you should leave it turned on, you can find a really great video from Ermin in the top right explaining just that. And then there's the new heat generation, which also got rewritten from scratch. Heat is now calculated more dynamically. which leads to the tires having different behaviors at varied temperatures. So the faster laps in colder weather conditions should be a thing of the past now, with the wheels being more nervous at lower temperatures and oily or slidey when the sun scorches the asphalt. Also, it's much easier to overheat the tires if your driving style depends on a lot of slip angle. In my testing, the tires were in a good window most of the time. But compared to before, where cold tires were often an issue for me with the default setup, I can only imagine what that means for faster drivers. And there's even more. Improved camber simulation, new rubber bump stops, damping simulation, improved engine throttle simulation, improved track grip on and off the ideal line, and much more. This update is just crazy when it comes to the level of changes to an already impressive simulation racing game. Okay, but all those numbers and stats are meaningless if it doesn't translate to a great driving experience. So let's hop onto the track and take a spin in the new BMW, shall we? Alrighty! Here we are in the trusty BMW here on Monza, which is the perfect track to showcase what has changed with the new update. We're driving with the aggressive preset, and I'm sporting my completely new load cell pedals, so bear with me if I have some problems with braking. So let's start with the start-finish straight and braking. Braking has now a new effect because camber is calculated completely different than before, and therefore there's like a small wobbling in the rear of the car when you are heavily braking, heavily stomping on the brakes, which is really awesome. So that's how I would think a car would behave under heavy braking, that the rear wants to step out. It's not like you're losing any control over the car, it's just more like a visual and sensational effect in the force feedback, but it's a great addition to make it even more realistic in my eyes. The second big thing is how the car now, with the higher tick rate of 400 Hz, behaves over curbs. It's a completely different feeling. So when you drive over curbs, the tire is almost like it wants to evade. It wants to slip away to the left or to the right of the curbing, which is just great. So you feel how the tire is actually touching the curb instead of just getting that rumbling effect, which will definitely affect mid-engine cars like the Ferrari or the McLaren in the end. Because when you're driving a Ascari like I'm now and you're going over that sausage curb, I bet there will be a lot of accidents with mid-engine cars that are not as high up as the BMW is. So the next thing I want to talk about is more grip. In the developer update, Kuno stated that there's more grip now, and I think you can feel that too. So the car feels more stable when turning into a corner with slower speeds, like here. So there's a lot of grip on the front tires, and also the rear tires have a lot of grip, so there's not that much oversteer than before. I think you can turn down traction control to 2 or to 1 and feel quite comfortable driving. Maybe not on the limit, I don't know. I'm not really someone who can push this car to the limit. I'm not that quick. Others have to decide on that. But I think when I compare to how I had my traction control settings before, I can easily sport lower numbers than previously. Which leads us to tire temperatures. So the heat generation is also calculated completely newly, as we talked about before. And as you can see, my pressures are quite good already. Not perfect by any means, but I'm not driving the fastest times I can at the moment. But as you can see, with the aggressive preset, I'm almost at 27.5 with the pressures. Maybe not in the front left, but it's getting there with each lap. Only in my third lap or so, or the second lap, only in my second lap. And the tires are already quite hot, and I didn't had a spin or something like this. So heat generation is more aggressive now. You have to use the brake ducts, I think. They were also mentioned by Kunos that you should use brake ducts more efficiently. Open them up if you're having trouble with overheating tires. Because if you're driving with a lot of slip angle, like certainly a lot of you are doing, you will have problems with overheating tires at the beginning. And you have to tone down the pressures. You will have to open up the brake ducts to get the tires in a nice operating window. What I don't understand is the lap times are now slower. So they said like 1 or 2 seconds slower than before. Even though we have more grip, it has something to do with how the grip is calculated with the heat generating more dynamically in the tire. I really don't understand how that works altogether. But keep in mind that your lap times may be a little bit slower when testing the new update for yourself. But overall, I have to say this is the best ACC has ever been. It feels amazing to drive. The BMW is a great addition to the game, and all I can say is download it, test it yourself, and fall in love all over again with ACC. Assetto Corsa 2 will still take some years before it sees the light of day, but for now ACC sets the course for the future and makes itself ready to lead the sim racing scene with new content in the next couple of years. This update embodies truly sim racing ambitions and shows that Kunos is committed 100% to the sim racing scene. And hey, maybe next time we get some prototypes or the Nordschleife, it's never too late for that. But anyhow, how do you like the update? Let me know in the comments down below. And where do you think is the franchise headed next? But if you need more sim racing action right now, go and visit overtake.gg. And here on YouTube you can continue with Ermin's traction control video he just did. Great tutorial, check it out, top right corner. But that's all from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in and see you next time around. Cheers!